Hey guys, what's going on? Time for another YouTube video. It's been a couple weeks. I haven't been on the water all that much, but I finally got out there. I caught a few fish, but more importantly, I finally had one of these show up. This is the new Curado M 200HG. This is the new Curado version that Shimano dropped at ICAST this year. Did a tech video on all of this, so if you want to know the specs and tech, all about, infinity drive and silent tune and the new MGL Spool 3, you can go to my video that talks about that. But this one is really all about its casting performance. So we just unboxed it. I spooled it up with 65-pound Power Pro, and it actually held 225 feet of 65-pound Power Pro. So the 200 size holds a lot of capacity. I mean, if you could throw something 225 feet, you're putting it out there. What we want to do is I'm going to walk through my setup and the settings, and we're going to see how both SVS Infinity casting and MGL Spool combined perform in distance test. So basically, let's open up the side here. I'll show you the reel. So the little open is right there. And so we're going to set this to all 4 paddles are on. So we're going to flatten them all. So that means they're all active. Okay, so this is the VBS part of the SVS Infinity. And then on the bottom side, be in my ear, good old fall. On the bottom side, we're going to set this to number 4. That should be 6, 5, 4. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. That's the easiest place to start. That's a great setting. If you're new to bait casting, this is kind of a guaranteed setting. The SVS Infinity part, that little dial, goes from 1 to 6. Number 6 offers you the most control but the least casting distance, so it's great for casting into the wind or skipping docks. Number 1, the least amount of control, the most distance. The paddles are similar. The more paddles that are open, the less distance, the more control. The more that are closed, the more distance, the more control. And I'll show you based on the distance in casting. The setup I've got this on, this is a Conquest 903 MBR rod, so 7'6" medium heavy rod. It's rated 1/4 to 3/4. And like I mentioned, 65-pound Power Pro, the 200HG Curado M, and then on the business end, the Jackall Gavacho frog. This is a pretty decently heavy frog, 2/3 of an ounce, but it fits right in the middle of that rating of that rod, which is really important. If you're going to do a casting test, make sure you load the bait you choose to load the rod fits within the rod ratings, because these rods are designed to load and unload properly between 1/4 and 3/4 ounce. For this model, every rod has ratings. They're designed to do a specific thing, and if you want the most casting distance, the most accuracy, make sure that your bait actually fits the ratings of the rod. All right, so for spool tension on the side here, I've got mine pretty loose, just enough where there's no play side to side, but watch the frog fall. It's pretty quick. All right, and that's how I usually keep my bait casters. I've been using them a very long time. The more control you need, you can always tighten that spool tension knob and give it a little more control. That's going to slow that spool down, especially when it comes to the bait landing and getting an overrun. And then I've got a Rapala digital line counter. So let's get this out there, and we'll try to do 4 successive casts here, and then we'll play with the SVS Infinity once we find the maximum distance based on the VBS. All right, let's let it go. All right, so that went out there pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over. We're going to zero that. So the way this one works is there's a little spring here. You just pull down and clip. You can see it's on 0. And just wind it in. Pretty simple. And I'm going to guess, based on that distance, about 110, 115 feet at maximum, which is still pretty decent. I mean, considering all the brakes are on this reel, to cast 110 feet, we'll talk about being right in between the posts there. 113.7. See that okay? I know it's tough with the sun. All right, 113.7. So 113.7, all the brakes on. Let's go to the side again. So now we're going to take one brake and disengage it. So that means you click it up. It means it's no longer active. It can no longer flop up and down, rub the race. Gives you basically 25% less control or less braking, so it should increase the casting distance. I'm not going to touch the spool tension or the SVS Infinity. It's still on number 4. I felt it right away. I mean, that's out there quite a ways. So let's see where it is. One in here. We'll do this. So it was 112, 113, I think it was the last one. So we 0. Guessing 135. Somewhere around there. Let's see. Nice thing is this reel here, the HG has that 7:4 gear ratio, so 32 inches of line per handle turn. They also make an XG, which is 8.1 to 1, I believe it is, or 8.2 to 1, and it's 36 inches of line per handle turn. So there you have it there, 149.7. So one break, we're at 132, I think the first cast, 133. No, 113. 113 the first cast. I just jumped up to 149. So one brake paddle on the VBS side of this, and you've got that much increase in distance. So let's take another one off. So this one is the one that's disengaged. So I'm going to go to the opposite side and disengage. So you got 2 that are flat, 2 that are cocked up. You can see here, SVS is still on number 4. I have not played with it. Spool tension is exactly the same. So release the line. Had a little bit of thumb problem there. Tapped the line a bit with my thumb, but we'll still see where it is. It still went out there pretty decently. So we're going to 0. That's way up in a tree in the back of my property. Go. And let's see, we're at 80. 110. Okay, even though I tapped it with my thumb, which I know I would have got more distance out of it. 156.6 with 2 brakes off. Well, let's try it again. Side plate. Number 3. So 1 and 3. And this is usually as far as I will go. SVS Infinity still on number 4. Have not touched spool tension. I don't go beyond this. These reels, when you don't have any brakes on them, are very, 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 very hard to cast. You can't really force the cast, but usually with 3 off and 1 on, or if it's a 6-pin VBS on the inside, 4 off. I've done even 5 off and 1 on. You always need that 1 just to give you a little bit of control. So let's see where we end up here. Let the motorcycles go by. Or a horrible sounding car, one of the two. Tapped again. I don't know if you can see that back there, but my line is like in that tree. There's a tree, that big tree way at the back behind the shed there. It's up in that tree. So, all right, let's see. A little bit. So we're going to click this in here. 0. I'm going to have to deal with getting this thing out first. Well, it's in the tree. It went in a tree. Oh, almost out. Almost out. Come on. I'm going to step over here so I don't hit the head shed. That's it. What were we at the last one? 150 something? 153, 156, something around there. $181. So 3 brakes off, 1 brake on, 181 feet with a Kyara Frog that weighs 2/3 of an ounce on the MBR 903 with the Curado M 200 HG. So phenomenal. But now let's talk about how SVS is going to affect the casting distance. All right. And control as well. This is really easy to cast this reel. The MGL Spool 3 is really Shimano's lightest design spool. So they've taken the most mass as possible out of this spool. But maintain strength. But they did that for good reason, and it's for startup inertia. They want that low startup inertia. When a spool is lighter, it takes less effort to get it rolling. Just makes casting better from light baits all the way to big baits, MGL Spool 3 is a lot better casting spool. So let's look right here. We're on number 4. So let's go to number 3, which it's so small, the printing, but that should be number 3. Okay. Number 3, same cast, same spool tension, 3 breaks off, 1 break on. Okay. It's right over my shed. Hopefully I don't hook it. Last thing I want to do is rip the shed. So 181 was the last one. Caught in something. I might have to walk this one. Let's see. Don't hook the shed. Don't hook the shed. Now it's on the trailer. Got it. Oh, 181 was the number on the last one, on number 4 setting. Okay, so pretty close. 182.9. 182.9. So let's do it again. We're going to drop this down to number 2. So right here. So hopefully you can see that. Number 2. Let me click that. So this reel holds 225 feet, and I can almost see my knot. Let's see where that one went. Zeroed. Now I got to dig this way out of that tree in the back. Okay. It's all off me. Just make sure it winds up nice and smooth too. Pretty important when you're doing casting. You want to make sure the way it winds is even on the spool. When you're using a line counter like this Rapala one, sometimes if you have it pulled over to one side, it'll stack your line to one side. So make sure it's just even down the middle of the rod. So it actually works really, really well. I like it. Digital line counter. Much better than my previous caveman version. So last one was 183. 198. My wife's getting a chuckle out of that. 198 feet on setting 2. So let's try setting 1 on the SVS. So as you can see, every time you lower SVS, so that should be number 1 right there. Every time you lower the SVS number, what it's doing is there's a race that goes up and down. When you push it up to number 6, the race gets pushed down into it. I'm sorry, I think it pulls back. With number 6, it pulls back, and it allows the feet, no, it does, it goes down. So number 6 goes down, and what it does, that little cone pushes down into those paddles and forces them to stay open, meaning active. So they're flat. So it offers the most control, but all the way through the cast. As you back SVS number, the dial back, the race pulls away from those paddles and allows them to flop up and down. When they're in the up position, like you see the way I close them, they're inactive. When they're down, they're active. They're like little parachutes. And what's happening is, at the peak of your cast, the centrifugal force flares them outwards, and they rub the race to control the spool from speeding up further. As I dial this race back, it allows those that they flare at the very beginning of my cast, because my cast is at its peak speed. But as the cast settles and controls, they're allowed with less centrifugal force to stand up, making them inactive. So this is the best scenario. So now we've got the least amount of control. They're there, they're gonna flare as soon as I cast, but really, as soon as it feels like it's under control, they're gonna start to contract and allow more distance. So we'll see if we can get more. 198. 200 feet is unbelievable. We'll try. I'm running that risk, that fine line of backlash here. So yeah, you heard it. I'm gonna give one more though. Had a little bit of a flare up. There's no backlash or anything, but I felt it about 2/3 of the way through the cast. So let's give it one more cast. Just silly. It's 40 feet up in a tree, 150, 180 feet away. Like, it's just, I couldn't even imagine reaching these kind of depths with a frog. So, showing you guys full out. Clip it in. Zeroed. I don't know how I'm going to get it out of this tree. We're going to try. Wouldn't that suck if it's stuck in the tree on a cast like that? Yep, it's in that tree, boy. Cannot get it out of the tree. Look where this thing is. I don't know if you can see that. Let's walk with it. I'm going to show you where this is as I'm winding. This is insane. Like, this is a monstrous cast. Of course, my reel line counter wasn't working because it popped out because I was pulling on it. I don't even know how I'm going to get this out of here. Cool. That ain't coming out. All right, we're going to conclude this test. So, yes, it cast far. That's over 200 feet because that is way further than my last cast. Guys, if you are considering checking out the new Curado M from Shimano, it is a really good performer. That MGL Spool 3, Silent Tune, S3D Spool, all the stuff, Infinity Drive, really works well. And as you can see by putting one up 40 feet into a tree, 200 feet away, it can cast. So do me a favor, guys, if you can, click subscribe. That obviously helps get our videos into your feed. If you have any questions or comments about the Curado M, or you have any questions about the Conquest 903 MBR, or the 65-pound Power Pro, or the Rapala line counter, hit us in the comments. Leave one down below. I'm out of breath from walking all this distance. That tells you how out of shape I am. But really, guys, appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, we love talking to you guys, so anything you want to know about this stuff, hit us up. I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope you're all doing well. Most importantly, I hope you're all catching fish. We'll talk to you soon.